Well, hello, and thank you for joining this webinar. We have got another recap of where we're up to on waste. I call this session Don't Waste It, where the it is IT, of course. But have you got anything with a plug? Have you got anything with a cable? Then you should be really interested in our topic today. It's our annual Waste Day webinar, and we're going to hear quite a lot about the latest techniques for getting our waste electricals reprocessed successfully. I'm Dalim. I'm chairman of three great groups, BCS London branches. They are London North, London Central, and London South branch. And I hope you're a member of one of those. But if not, then certainly I hope you're a member of one of the other great BCS groups we've got supporting this webinar today. I know we've got Margaret Ross with us, and I think we have a number of other BCS worthies with us as well. But of course, the main thing is about our speakers, and they are from Material Focus. But hey, wait a minute. Why am I doing all this talking? Please welcome and join and introduce yourselves. That's over from me. Bye for now. See you later.
Thank you. Great, Dan. Thank you for the invite. Hi all. Hi everyone. Good evening and welcome to this webinar, Saving Critical Raw Materials from E-Waste. Thanks very much for joining everyone. So I'm Nick Brown, Partnerships Manager, and I'm with Niamh, who is the Local Authority and Environmental Partnerships Manager, and we both work for Material Focus. So what are we going to be talking about tonight? So we'll be taking you through a wide list of important topics in the world of e-waste that we're involved in. And then at the end, there'll be time for a Q&A session. So for starters, who and what is Material Focus? So Material Focus formed in March 2020, which is probably the worst time in history to form a company with everything going on at the time. We're an independent, not-for-profit, saving valuable, critical and finite materials from going to waste. So we're not an operational company ourselves, but a campaign group, in effect, that sits in the middle of a host of sectors, from brands and stores and online to waste management companies, unis and councils. Material Focus is our overall B2B name, but you'll probably recognize our customer-facing campaign more. So that's entitled Recycle Your Electricals. More on that later. We're a small but mighty team of 14 who span across several departments, from research to project management and behavior change to comms, PR and partnerships. We basically make it easy for everyone across the UK to fix, donate and recycle their electricals. We do this through three main strands, the three I's we like to call them. So that is insights, investments and inspiration, which Niamh will start to walk you through in more detail. Over to you, Niamh.
Great. So thanks, Nick. Why are we all here? What's it all about? What are we talking about today? So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the term e-waste, but just to give you a little overview of why we're concerned, why it's important to us. So discarded household electricals are one of the fastest growing sources of waste in the UK and in the world. So our research has shown that most people in the UK think recycling is the right thing to do, but it's currently still too difficult. So we're on a mission and we're all about making it as easy as possible to do the right thing. So there's going to be a lot of stats today, so I won't go into them in too much detail. But as you can see, the problem is big and there's a lot for us to tackle. So we'll dig into it in a bit more detail. Fab. So first up is our insight. So a lot of our research is all evidence-based. We're here to kind of put all the facts forward. So we're constantly looking into new areas that we can research and dig a bit deeper. So an example, a few of them are work into electricals product and waste flows across the sector. Circular metrics and measurements are looking into kind of other ways to measure waste. A massive part of the work we do is rooted in consumer behaviour and attitudes. We're constantly kind of basing our work with the Recycle Electricals campaign with that. As part of the work we do, we put together a lot of industry briefing papers. So we collect together all the relevant information and facts and put them into easier to read, easier to digest briefing papers. And on top of that, we've looked into, we're going to talk about it a bit more today, but critical raw materials and the recovery rates of that. And then also always looking at those new challenges that are popping up. So we did a lot of work into vapes that we'll talk about later, but you may have seen we were one of the first to kind of look into the environmental impacts of disposable vapes. And a lot of our work has been used in kind of the run up to the ban and after. And other things include FastTech and battery fires. So always looking at kind of those new areas that can impact the sector and trying to find new bits of research to kind of help with that. Here's a bit of a snapshot of, I think, only a few of the things we've looked into over the last couple of years. They're all on our website, so I would definitely recommend after this, if you're interested, go and have a look. They're all there for you to download and read in more detail, and also with a quick summary of kind of the key findings as well. Brilliant. And next up is investments. So we're all about making it physically easier for people to recycle their old and wanted electricals. And our kind of main ways of doing that are funding projects that do that. So Electricals Recycling Fund, we have funded a number of projects across the UK, pilot projects, funding growth and innovation. Our Circular Electricals Fund, which I'll touch on a bit more as well, all about the circularity of materials and products. And then finally, our Community Recycling Fund, so just funding a lot more smaller scale testing and projects across the UK, all to do with electricals. And over to Nick for inspiration.
Brilliant. So what is the inspiration strand? Well, we inspire, educate and encourage the UK public to fix, donate, sell and recycle their unwanted electricals through our Recycle Your Electricals campaign. So it's not just about recycling, it is about the other elements as well. And you may see the pink cat, but more on him in a minute. So what's the appetite like in the UK for this? So 80% of UK public think recycling is a good thing. That is from our research we've conducted over the last few years that highlight the vast majority of the UK do want to do the right thing. So this is who we focus on. Yet 40% unfortunately still even bin their electricals, which highlights the scale of the problem. By the way, e-waste is the fastest growing waste stream in the world. So it really is a massive increasing problem. So in terms of a mix of barriers that hinder reuse and recycling, so there's a wide mix from lack of awareness and know-how to lack of trust and general apathy. So we use a range of comms and partnerships, tools and channels to help the public and organisations get over these barriers in a positive manner. We really like to keep the communications enthusiastic and positive. It's a really important element of what we do. So if we go on to the next slide, you will see, what do we call it, Niamh? Our brand ambassador, our famous messenger, a pink hypnotic cat. So you can see him everywhere you go, from the tube train ads to bus shelter posters to even a national TV ad, which is being shown in this month actually. So you will start to notice him more and more, and he's there to really draw attention to a potentially sometimes prosaic subject, but really try and bring an energy that people will remember when they go to do their things, really helping behavior change. So what else, what other tools do we have? So another tool is our industry leading donation recycling locator, which you can find on our website homepage. If you see the top button, pink button on the top right. So on this, there's over 30,000 locations, from recycling centres in a huge number of councils to retail stores across many major brands. So we've got stores from John Lewis, Waitrose, Asda, Boots, and many, many more. All you have to do is pop your postcode into the box there in the front, and it will show up. Bring up recycling, donation, and repair options within a 5-mile radius to the postcode you put in, and you can also specify what items you have as well or not. So the next slide also shows the brands that support our campaign. As you can see, a huge number that get involved. We work with hundreds of partners, from retailers to charities to local authorities and other public sector organisations such as universities. Here's just some of the major partners we work with, from Currys, B&Q and eBay to VMO2, Sainsbury's and Bernardo's. So, and here is just a small selection of our many fantastic campaigns. I won't go through every one, but there's some fantastic stories for each of these. So we have our pink bring banks, which you can see in the bottom right, to a giant toaster, which you can see on the bottom left, which was in a Bristol shopping centre, where you could drop your electricals, to even Stacey out of Gavin and Stacey, doing a piece on unused kitchen tech in the middle, to lastly, to an X-ray of a Furby in the bottom centre, which highlighted the hidden treasures and sometimes hidden batteries that you find within some electrical items. All this and many, many more. So if you look on the next slide, how are we driving this debate? And you know, we're really pleased to say that this slide highlights the wide reach and interest in this subject and campaign. So we've had features on the TV program The Gadget Show, which you might have seen on Channel 5, and even our boss making several appearances on the sofas of The One Show and BBC Breakfast. I think that's a different sofa, but there's two red sofas he's been on multiple times, so it's brilliant publicity. Lastly, to numerous articles across major titles such as the FT and the Guardian. So it really shows the wide range of publicity we get from this campaign. So it's a testament to the hard work that our PR and comms team does day in, day out. So, and we're pleased to say it's having an impact. You know, these are the kind of results that shows it. So 66% of the UK population say they recycled at least one electrical in the past year. Over 3 million visitors to our website and 16 million more small electricals recycled in 24 versus 2023. So really positive numbers, and it's increasing in a positive manner every year. And I'll pass on to Niamh to talk about the Electricals Recycling Fund.
Great, thank you. So it just felt important today to not only talk about some of the important issues, but just some of the ways we're helping and how we are helping make a difference, to kind of put that positive spin. We're all about making it easier. We're all about that positivity. So I'll quickly explain the Electrical Recycling Fund. So to date, we have funded over 70 projects across the UK, all about making it physically easier to recycle, donate, repair, and reuse your old and modern electricals. And that has meant that over 12.5 million more people are able to do that. So yeah, some really great numbers in there and some really lovely projects as well, some pilots. So a quick summary of some of those things. Due to the Electrical Recycling Fund and our different pilots, we have now over 800 new collection points and bring banks across the UK. A nice picture of them getting delivered there. I think that was to Lewisham. Almost 4 million more households now have a small electrical curbside collection. So that means that on their doorstep, they can either bag up and put them out on their recycling day or general rubbish day, any of their unwanted small electricals. And on top of that, innovation projects to test and trial new ways for people to reuse and recycle. So there was a branch to the fund which would look at new things that maybe hadn't been done before, as well as just growing existing things that have been tried and tested before. So if you are interested in any of the pilots, we have just launched, as of last week, some new pilot case studies. There are 40 up there at the moment and more to come, but really interesting kind of deep dive into what we did. A lot of them local authorities, but, you know, community groups as well. Across the UK, I think we've got some as high as the Orkney Islands to as far south as you can go. So a real nice mix of curbside collections, on the street bring banks, collection points in places like libraries or community centres, to repair cafes, that type of thing. So if you're interested, I'd really recommend having a look and kind of seeing the impact we've had on a community on the ground level. Fab. And next up is our Circular Electricals Fund. So just to kind of show the different strings to our bow and the different areas of how we're trying to make a difference. So just to go into a little bit more detail, because I thought this one might need a little bit more explaining, the Electrical Recycling Fund. So what was our fund? It was a £1 million fund to keep electricals and, sorry about that, and their materials in use for longer. So we kind of split that up into 3 areas to kind of combat the key challenges that we thought there were with consumer electricals. The first one being materials. So this was looking at projects that could look into the use and recovering of materials more efficiently, to obviously conserve resources, reduce waste, and recover the value within. Next up was product design. So this was looking at projects that could make the electricals themselves a bit more durable in the production, ideally more repairable, upgradable, and long lasting. So all about that circular economy, making things last a bit longer. And then finally, it was business models. So this was developing new services, which could encourage sharing and reusing of products. So all rooted in that circular economy and circular electricals. Wonderful. So as I said, just to kind of touch on that again, these were the 3 areas we were looking for. So with materials, things looking at advanced recycling technologies, bio-based or sustainable alternatives that could be used for the materials as part of the production process, modular design, so how that can impact recycling and life after the end of use of products, and that closed loop supply chain. So all areas I'm sure you've heard of before, so I won't have to dig into too much detail. And on the product design, really, really important, the repairability of products. So, and kind of encouraging in that production process that repair is kind of key and at the forefront of when products are designed. So self-healing materials, a lot of talk recently about the right to repair, so initiatives building on that, and that's quite a popular discussion at the moment. And upgrade-friendly designs, again, a quite popular topic. And business models, so anything that can kind of help products with service, trade-in and refurbishment programs, looking at kind of establishing more of them, B2B sharing platforms, and deposit return schemes. So this was kind of what was set out when we established the fund. So I will hand over to Nick to talk about FastTech.
Thank you, Niamh. So one of the things we do is shine a light on areas which may go slightly under the radar. And one of these is fast tech. So everyone's heard of fast food and fast fashion. Well, now is the rise of fast tech and it is everywhere. So what do we mean by fast tech? Well, what we mean is everyday, cheap and mass-produced electricals. This could be mini fans, earbuds, LED lights and cables. This is a really fast-growing global issue and it really contributes to the problem of e-waste. So if we look at the next slide, we've calculated that over a billion small fast electricals are bought in the UK alone every year, enough to cover well over 4,000 football pitches, and 2.2 million of these they're bought for £1 or less. These items are seen as disposable, and this is a massive issue. And I won't name the websites, but there's certain websites where people buy these things regularly, and it's a huge problem. 19 every second are binned. And really relevant to this webinar today is that they contain, a lot of precious materials such as gold, aluminium, copper, and lithium. And these are going to be lost forever if they keep being binned. So if we go to the next slide, another issue is over half of these fast tech items bought each year are now binned, or not just binned, but tucked away, forgotten in a drawer. So this is contributing to the drawer of doom, which we'll mention later on in the webinar. So they're not going back into the circular economy, basically, which is a huge issue. So instead of binning, what can you do? Well, these can be recycled a lot of the time. They have to be separated from general waste, but they can be recycled, and the precious materials inside these can be reclaimed and reused. And they can, in a wider sense, they can become wind turbines, life-saving medical devices, or even, equipment for children's playgrounds. Producers of these items and retailers have legal responsibilities to fund and facilitate these recycling of old electricals, which is partly why we're here and what we do. So FastTech is just a small a strand of what we do, but it's a growing issue that we face, as well as another item which Niamh will talk about now.
Yeah, vapes. So vapes are kind of the poster child of that FastTech item. So we kind of looked into our research as the kind of issue of disposable vapes became more and more prevalent, but it's still something we're interested in, even post the disposable vape ban. But just to kind of put that into context, 13 vapes are thrown away or recycled incorrectly every second. So if someone's good at maths, we could probably work out how many have been thrown away since this webinar started, which is probably shock us all. So just to kind of lay out some more of that research we've done and the facts and figures, just to kind of explain that these everyday products are really contributing to the problem and why we need to tackle them. So we are buying 13.5 million vapes per week. So that's a combination of, when we did this research, it was a combination of all the different types. And we are binning and incorrectly recycling 8.2 million a week. So huge amounts. And, that often incorporates, despite the public's best intentions, a lot of them are inadvertently recycling them incorrectly, so putting them in general recycling rather than separate electrical recycling. So not only is this having a massive impact to the environment and losing these materials forever, but it's really important to touch on the risk with fires. So when they're incorrectly disposed of, when crushed or damaged in the waste stream, they are causing fires. These are fires in waste collection lorries, in waste transfer stations, and as you can imagine, they're having a massive knock-on impact. That's putting collection services at risk. It's putting the local community at risk. It's putting fire services at risk. It's having impact to air quality where the fires are. The runoff water that's being used is having, so it is huge. Those quick actions of throwing them away and treating them as disposable are having a massive knock-on impact. As it lists there, harm to wildlife, to the land, to the waterways, and to the people that are put at risk. And also then the knock-on impact to services. So that takes out vehicles out of action. It can take collection centres out of action. So then has that impact on everyone else. They're not getting their waste and recycling collected. So yeah, it's really important to kind of highlight that wider impact. And since our research is done, we've seen a massive rise in these newer models coming to market. So things like pods and the big puff vapes. So just kind of the new things that are coming that are also adding to that as well, which are quite interesting to talk about. So all vapes are recyclable, all the different models, all the different types, and over 10,000 electrical vehicle batteries worth of lithium's thrown away from that. So 80% of the materials within vapes can be recycled. I think there's often that confusion. They were marketed as disposable or single use, but actually it's really, really important to make the public know that they are in fact recyclable. I know the ban now is in place, but newer models coming to market, there's still kind of that confusion. So we're here to just remind everyone that they can be and should be recycled, especially these reusable and rechargeable new devices we're seeing. Fab. So kind of the three key takeaways, which are really important to make sure everyone knows. Producers and importers of vapes, they do have legal responsibilities to finance the cost, collection and treatment of old vapes. So that hasn't changed even with the ban. Retailers and distributors, so anyone selling a vape has a legal responsibility to take back an old customer's vape for recycling. So we're on a mission to make sure it's as easy for a person to recycle their vape as it is to buy one. It should be that simple. And consumers, so we're all about making sure they're aware that they know that they can recycle these. They shouldn't be binned or littered, but they should be recycled. I think to build on Nick's points with FastTech, I think a vape is a really good example. It may be cheap in value to buy, but actually the value of the items within inside are, really important. They do have a mixture of those critical raw materials, and it's just to try and make sure people don't value them from the cost price that they might be buying them in store, but for the materials within. So it's all about that kind of consumer education piece that we're really trying to get across. And I think mentioned earlier our different industry briefings. So we had put together one specifically on vapes. So it's a bit of a deeper dive if you're interested into the retailer, producer responsibilities, kind of what they should be doing legally, and also a lot of information for local authorities about what they can do and how they can signpost residents to find out more information on what they can do. So if you're interested, I definitely recommend go and have a look at that. Great, over to Nick.
Right, thank you. So, as I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of research and reports, which you can find on our website. And today, we'd like to talk about one research we did with Giraffe Innovation and Swansea University, which we commissioned not too long ago. And it's to investigate the scale of opportunity to recover critical raw materials and technology metals from waste electricals. So I'd like to just talk a bit more about that, actually. So next slide, please. So the UK economy is losing at least 13.64 million pounds of critical raw materials a year due to the lack of advanced recovery technologies in the UK. So this report looks at the way different technologies have been developed for the recovery of these TMs, these technology metals. TMs consist of critical raw material metals, so CRMs, platinum group metals, PGMs, and precious metals, PMs, and also nickel and tin. TMs are defined as any rare metal or a metal that is in demand, available and used for the purpose of furthering technology and engineered systems. So this report also mentions the pre-processing methods that can be used to prevent the losses of these TMs. So the next slide, it really it goes deeper into this. So securing access to supply of these TMs is a massive economic priority for governments, in particular the UK government and organisations around the world, particularly those that have hungry economies, particularly ones that rely heavily on imports due to lack of domestic availability, like the UK. So why is there increasing global concern over the security of the global supply of a wide range of these important TMs? Well, which are essential to the functionality of modern technologies. So this is due to several reasons: raw material scarcity, increasing demand, increasing likelihood of supply bottlenecks from primary sources, market price fluctuations, geopolitics, and basically the heightened environmental consciousness, which is a good thing, but it's leading to these issues as well. The government, our government has ambitions to build a big green manufacturing sector, as you guys probably know, and this is underpinned by access to these TMs, especially post-COVID, in light of the Green Recovery Plan to really regrow and restructure our economy. So, what were the key research findings, as detailed on the next slide? The research, well, basically the critical raw materials are vital in the manufacturing of a wide range of electrical items, as you probably know, so from phones, tablets to smart TVs. And overall demand is expected to double between the years of 2010 to 5 years' time. And the research provides a roadmap for the advanced recycling infrastructure, which the UK could invest in to help recover many of these materials. So TMs and CRMs enable essential functionality, as I mentioned, in many of these products. But it's not just mobile phones, small items such as that. It's also wind turbines, solar panels, batteries, and electric vehicles. So, for example, the availability of lithium and other CRMs, such as cobalt and graphite, will be vital to secure investment. It would be an investment from organisations such as Nissan, who really want to create a battery plant in this country. So it's a wide-ranging issue that goes way beyond these shores. And as mentioned, the raw material demand is expected to accelerate by 20 times over the period from 2010 to 2013. So this is a huge area for expansion. And as shown on the next slide, this is a massive stat. So an average of nearly 400,000 kilograms of critical and precious raw materials worth over 148 million pounds are found in waste electrical components every year. So this is why we're talking about here. You know, it may seem a small thing and a large problem, but everything that we do can help this issue. So if you look at the next slide, what's the opportunity from waste electricals? Well, you wouldn't think it, but it's waste electricals are a primary source of TMs. So this country throws away 300,000 tons of electrical waste from households and businesses each year. So just think how big that scale is, and that's just every year. So the problem is TM and CRM recycling rates remain low generally. They barely exceed 50%, even for really valuable elements such as gold and platinum group metals. So the problem is not being met by the recycling at the moment, and there's little way of recovery of TM from WE, apart from potentially PCBs, so printed circuit boards. So there's a real issue here. However, there are promising new technology being developed, and this report details those. So increasing electrical recycling offers a significant opportunity to address the UK's economic vulnerability regarding these materials. So basically, what we do in the campaign group and even to HypnoCat, all these things can help this massive problem through all the things we do. So the next slide, I mean, this kind of shows it in kind of stark reality. So nearly 130,000 tons of CO2 is the carbon footprint equivalent for mining new materials. So this shows the eco cost of mining for new materials rather than acquiring them from items we've already produced. So rather than getting them from phones that can be recycled, rather than binned and things like that. So it really shows the scale of the problem. This next slide really kind of we put in this because it really kind of really drills down the issue to something that's really familiar to this group. So printed circuit boards, they only represent a small proportion of total mass of the electrical waste streams, so really small. However, it's a major driving economic force for WE because of copper and PMs in these PCBs. So if you look on the right, you can see in the circuit board, there's gold, there's cobalt, there's all these precious metals highlighted there. And it's just a small thing, but it's obviously, as you know, these PCBs are everywhere, and it's something that we can really try and get a grip of. And places like the Royal Mint in Wales has pivoted the work they do, and they not only produce coins, but now they're going into trying to obtain gold from things like circuit boards. So it's a really interesting new field that's opening up. So gold and silver and copper are widely recovered from these things in places like the Royal Mint, and it really shows you that these things are everywhere, and it's even though they're trace amounts, it all adds up if you add all these items together. So, what other things are in there? If you look at the next slide, so this shows a list of the common technology metals. So we've got what have we got here? We've got yeah, again, we've got gold, we've got cobalt, we've got silver. So it really shows that these things are everywhere in trace amounts. However, they can be extracted, and eventually, hopefully, we'll see more of this in the industry. And another valuable material that Niamh will talk about now is copper.
Great, thanks, Nick. So another bit of research we did that kind of led into International Waste Day, which is a nice thing to talk about today. But if you're interested in doing a deeper dive, have a look at our website, was the UK's copper crunch even. So what is the problem? I think people are quite aware of copper, but just to kind of highlight some of the key stats. So the average UK household contains, together, over 38,000 tons of copper hidden inside those unwanted and thrown away electricals. So those items we have stashed away, we might have forgotten about or laying idle, that's the amount of copper grouped together. So this is enough to fulfill the UK's annual demand for copper contained in tech. So that's pretty mad when you put it like that. Those items that are stashed away that we might not even remember we have could actually fulfill what is needed to meet our copper demands. That's equivalent to 347,000 tons of copper, and that could be used to build wind turbines and solar panels for our 2030 green tech ambitions. So huge stats there to kind of get your head around. And 30% of this copper could be reduced from recycled copper that is currently thrown away. So we could be helping those issues, not needing to mine for more critical raw materials if we just utilize those items we have hiding away. So what does that mean? So if UK households are throwing away or holding on to 23 cables on average, so we're all probably can say that we've done that at some point in our lives. And the research we did in partnership with the Criticals Mineral Association says that cables contain at least 20% of copper. So for each one of those, they are at minimum 20% of copper. So that means that 627 million are binned or unused cables across the UK. That's enough, as our nice little Hypnocat infographic shows, is enough to go to the moon and back, and contains an incredible 3,000 tons of copper. So huge numbers in there. So just to kind of dig into a little bit more, so most of the copper consumed in the UK is imported in the form of semi-processed or manufactured goods. So the research we did in partnership with Bloomberg Intelligence estimates that the UK consumes around 250 to 280,000 tons of copper in a variety of different uses, as the kind of diagram shows us to the side, the kind of breakdown of what that is. And these span from infrastructure to vehicles, that type of thing. So copper is used widely. But yes, we're sitting on loads of it. So this kind of brings us back to why we're here to talk about today and the Great Cable Challenge. So I'll hand it back over to Nick to explain why we're talking about all of this.
Thanks, Niamh. So what can we and what can we do about all this? And we mentioned earlier that we run a range of campaigns across the year, and we're actually on the eve of our biggest one of the year, as it's International E-Waste Day tomorrow. So this year, like in 2024, our campaign is called the Great Cable Challenge. So as shown here is Hypnocat again, our trusty brand ambassador, popping up to remind people what they should be doing. So we use collateral and comms like this across our social channels, as I mentioned earlier, TV ads, there's billboards out of home, and it's really to try and normalize this and really try and encourage in a positive manner people to really try and think of their cables as useful elements that can be recycled. So if we look on the next slide, why have we chosen cables, and what is the challenge? Well, Niamh and I have been speaking to hundreds of brands, offices, councils, literally, and asked them to search through their homes for any cable they can find. And in turn, our comms team have been putting out social media posts and toolkits to to any member of public that wants to get involved too. So all basically it's as simple as all we have to do is find a cable, and we have opened it up to other small electricals as well. Look on our locator and find the nearest place to take it. And as mentioned, there's 30,000 sites you can take it on there. It will come within a 5-mile radius to your house, your postcode, the nearest ones. Or if you're an employee at an office, speak to me and Niamh, and we can send you a deck with more info. And if we go to the next slide, Niamh can talk a bit more about what we achieved last year, actually.
Yeah, so the reason why we've brought it back again was it landed so well. So it was a really uniting thing. Like we could all admit to having that drawer of doom, that drawer in our house or a box or a bag, that we've hidden those cables, thinking on that rainy day you might decide to use that DVD player or bring out an old electrical item that you're definitely not going to use again. So we found that it kind of brought people together. And when hunting for those cables, you may find old broken electricals too, old cameras, old remotes, old game consoles, that type of thing that are broken that you're holding on to. So by rummaging around, you can find that, you can bag them up, and you can recycle them. And it was really, really successful last year. Over 200 organizations got involved. Like Nick said, that was a real mix from big brands to local authorities, to communities, to schools, to parish councils, to universities, you name it, probably got involved, which is great to see. And everyone kind of did their own thing and incorporated it in their own unique way, which is really nice. And there's second up is our boss Scott. He was on national TV talking about the challenge, which was great. We had fantastic national and even global coverage, which is quite crazy to say. And yeah, just more snapshot of how people got involved in their different ways. And at the end of the day, the most important thing, hundreds and thousands of cables recycled. So keeping hold of all that copper, it not getting binned, and making sure it can be recycled. And the great thing about copper is it can be recycled over and over. So by keeping them in that loop, we're not losing them forever, which is fantastic. So yeah, another snapshot of some of the nice ways people got involved. That middle picture is of a shopping centre, which had some school children get involved, which was great. And the one on the right was a really nice one where Newcastle City Council got involved with St James's Park, the football stadium, and they encouraged everyone on match day to bring along a cable. And I can't even remember what the final number was, but they could loop around the pitch multiple times by how much was collected, which is really great. So, it was nice that people, like we said, kind of took it in their own way and did what they want with it, took the idea and kind of ran with it, which is brilliant. So we're hoping to see this year even more ideas, people getting involved and kind of putting their own spin on it. So fab. Hopefully we've convinced you to get involved.